Anybody know why I can't update my PS4? How do I fix this?
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball. Today we're going to be looking back at some Dynasty stash options in the Pacific Division of the NBA. The Golden State Warriors, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Suns, and the Sacramento Kings. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. We will start by looking at the Golden State Warriors, a team that is almost bereft of dynasty stash options, although the one guy I do want to focus mainly on today is a guy who I have been very high on in the past, who was an absolute disaster this season, and that is Jordan Bell. We thought that with the retirement of David West, with the injury to DeMarcus Cousins, with the potential of Kevon Looney not returning, although that ended up obviously happening and Looney did return to the team, that Bell would have an opportunity in his second season to really take a big step forward, to be the starting center on this team in certain matchups, which he did in his rookie season and did well, but obviously got into the doghouse with Steve Kerr, had that issue with Mike Brown, was out of the rotation plenty of times, only ended up playing 68 games this season and under 12 minutes per game, which is significantly fewer than I thought he would play when the season began. His advanced numbers were really a disaster, a negative 5.1 this season on-off, which is really bad for a guy who a lot of his defensive stuff, or a lot of his advanced stuff has always been really, really strong. Horrible defensive PIPM. Overall PIPM was really bad. Just really a bad season for Jordan Bell. He ended this season the 364th ranked player. For comparison, last season he was 200th. He played 3 fewer minutes per game. His block rate was down, his steal rate was almost cut in half, his assist rate was lower, his rebound rate was lower, his scoring was lower, his field goal percentage was lower, and shockingly enough, his free throw percentage was also lower. So basically, he was worse in every single category that you can imagine. And we saw him in a couple of Summer League games start taking pull-up threes, and we thought, oh shit, it's on here. Jordan Bell's really going to take this step forward, going to take this opportunity, split the minutes with Looney. Maybe Looney's out of the rotation when Cousins comes back, but it wasn't. Bell was an absolute disaster this season, and you have to worry about where he goes now from his NBA career. He is a restricted free agent, so maybe another team sees something from him and wants to play him in a Montrezl Harrell type of a role. That's the sort of role I think he can thrive in. Maybe not, or not as good as Harrell, maybe not as high minutes as what Harrell can provide, but that bench guy, 24 minutes a night, who can come in, who can pass, who can play defense, get high steal and block rates, rebound the ball, and can be efficient. Everything just went absolutely to shit this year with the Warriors. And a lot of the time, guys like this, where there are some attitudinal issues, some off-court concerns, maybe it takes them 3-4 seasons to really get things going. So if we're really focusing on the name of this podcast, we're talking about stash guys, a player whose value has absolutely plummeted is Jordan Bell, and I'd be happy to take a bit of a flyer on him. A lot can change with either this Warriors team, with him maturing, or him going to another team. All of those three things are in play. You'd want two of them to happen, him maturing and either him getting a bigger role in the Warriors or moving to another team for it to really come true. But when you look at the other options on this team, Alfonzo McKinney, a rotation guy this year, not that good. Jacob Evans, didn't really see anything good from him until I think the last game of the season, where he put up a pretty solid last 2 games where he played 37 and 25 minutes, and that game against the Pelicans, he had 11 and 5 with 3 steals and 2 blocks, and you go, okay, that's interesting. He had some good defensive numbers in college as well, but he was a disaster the majority of this season in the NBA as well, shooting 36% from the field and 31% from 3, and didn't really do much defensively either. So Bell is still the guy to me on this team. You could look at Looney. I guess Kevon Looney's still only 23 years of age, which I guess would surprise some people. Actually younger than Jordan Bell. I'm not sure that his ceiling is as high, but his ability to get steals as a big man is impressive. He can block some shots, he can get some field goal percentage, and he held his own. So if you wanted to make the argument that Looney is a more secure option, I would agree with you. Upside-wise, I think Bell has a higher ceiling than what Kevon can get to, but Looney's still just 23 and could find himself in a larger role also next season. The other guy you look at is Quinn Cook, but also 26 years of age. He is going to be a restricted free agent too. I think he can be a solid 20-minute-a-night point guard in a similar role that Michael Carter-Williams / Jaren Grant / Isaiah Briscoe had in Orlando. He'd be a perfect guy to fit in there in Orlando behind DJ Augustin. If they don't get another point guard there, he could start for a low-level team as well and be a top 120, top 100 sort of a player. He hit threes. He's really efficient. Assist and steal rate is a little bit of a problem, but it's hard to really get a full grasp of that in this Golden State Warriors squad. So he is another name to watch, but Bell's still the guy that I am putting a little bit of faith in. If he doesn't figure it out next season, I reckon I'll bail out completely. I've already bailed out a little bit. But if it doesn't get anything happening with him next season, I'd be happy to say that, you know what, I was wrong on that one. But I'm still holding a little bit of hope there on good old Geordie Bell. Now's the time for me to tell you about today's sponsor, and that is the great folks over at Wise. Wise is an indoor camera that does it all, packed with premium features allowing you to see everything from anywhere for only $20. 1080p, full HD, images so clear you won't miss a thing, night vision, two-way audio. It's Wise's mission to bring amazing smart home products accessible to everybody. They have free rolling 14-day cloud storage and a no subscription service. So that is all you can ask for in your personal camera. And for $20, you can get it to do whatever you want. I'm having a look at the few of the examples they gave me here on this Wise ad of things you can do with it. Yeah, watch your kids destroy your home. That makes sense. Bird watching. Sure. Watch your plants grow over time lapse. That's a great idea. One of the options they gave you, if anyone could explain this to me, I'd love to know. Watching over your water softener to know when you need more salt. What does that even mean? Why do you need a camera on? Sorry, Wise, I know you're a great product. I just want more information about people who need to put cameras on water softeners. Who is using a water softener in the first place? That is intriguing. I'm going to go research that, but that doesn't detract from the value that Wise provides for just $20. It just shows you can use it for absolutely anything. And if you want more, they can give you that too. For just $10 more, Wise Cam Pan gives you 360-degree coverage in under 3 seconds. Life moves fast. Your camera should too. Go to wise.com/locked. That's WYZE.com/locked to get yourself the guaranteed lowest price on this fantastic indoor camera. WYZE.com/locked. All right, let's move on to the next team we're going to take a look at now. We're going on to the LA Clippers, a team obviously in the playoffs, matching up with the Golden State Warriors at the moment. The obvious name here in terms of dynasty value, it's pretty straightforward. It's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I was pretty high on him in the preseason. I was pretty high on him during the season, and we're really starting to see him come together at the moment. He played all 82 games as a rookie, started the majority of them, averaged just 11 points with 3 assists, but everybody knows about Shai. I think he's a top 50 sort of an upside player, probably not top 20, not sure if he can get that high. But we know how good he is already at this point, and really starting to show it against the best competition in the NBA. Advanced stuff from Shai was relatively positive as well during this season. But he's not the guy that we're taking a look at here because he has been rostered by all teams throughout the whole season. Well, I would hope so anyway, given the nature of his play, the hype that he got, and the fact that he's been a starter on this squad nearly all season. He is the other rookie they took in the lottery was Jerome Robinson. I didn't see a huge amount from Jerome Robinson that gets me excited. He was a guy that I was quite critical of the Clippers taking in that lottery selection. He's a guy that I hated for fantasy because of his inability to put up numbers outside of scoring. Now, in the G League, I thought he did pretty well. 41% shooting on threes, 19 points, 3.5 assists, 1.2 steals, but nothing overly sensational. His defense is still a real worry, is Jerome Robinson, but he did a little bit better than I thought in the NBA. Still had a lot of room to grow, 32% on his threes, but barely played. It's the peripherals, the rebounds, assists, steals, blocks that worries me with Jerome Robinson. The guy I do want to talk about on this squad, if we're really talking dynasty stash guys, there's a guy like the list manager Ty Wallace, Sindarius Thornwell, but I'm not really sure they can ever find enough minutes to be impactful guy. The guy I want to talk about is John Motley, a G League player who put up some big numbers as a member of the Dallas Mavericks last season. Had some moments this season for the Clippers as well. And he's, again, I don't like referencing people that seem to be, I don't know the right word here, but he reminds me of a Christian Wood type of a player. Probably not as good defensively as what Wood is, but a really strong rebounder, averaged 22 and 10 in the G League this season. A block, not this season, sorry, that was last season, a block and a steal per game for Motley. He played only 7 minutes a game this year, but shot well, 53% from the field. The worry you have with him is the real lack of defensive numbers, and that's a concern, I guess, moving forward with Motley. But if you're in a very, very deep league, I think he's got some appeal to maybe be an option at some spot. The other two-way guy they had, Angel Delgado, another guy who I think similarly could be an interesting type of deeper league stash. And if you do believe in Jerome Robinson, I'm not going to completely fault you for that. I think that out of all of those guys, Motley, Robinson, and Delgado, that Robinson probably has the best shot to play the most minutes out of that group, which inherently gives him probably the most fantasy value. But on a production per minute basis, he's the lowest of those three guys. So all it would take is a break for someone like Motley to find themselves on a team where they're playing 25 a night as opposed to Robinson playing 25, and then you'd take Motley majority of that time. I worry that I don't think Robinson ever develops into a starting caliber player, Jerome Robinson. I don't think he ever develops into a starting caliber player. I think he's more of a 22 to 23 minute a night guy who maybe gives you 12 points with 2.5 threes per game. And the G League stuff was pretty impressive from Robinson, but in the big leagues, he did struggle, although has had a couple of moments in the playoffs where he's been decently impressive. So I guess there is something to say that he took some steps forward, and next year is going to be really important for Jerome Robinson. He is already 22 years of age, so he's a full, almost year and a half older than Gilgeous-Alexander. That is worth mentioning as well. And the other guy on this team, of course, is Landry Shamet. Everyone's aware of him. Ivica Zubac, who are all 22 as well. Shamet, I feel like, is a little bit Robinson-like, as in a guy who hits threes and can score and does very little else apart from that. While you know that I love Zubac, if he gets 26 and he's a comfortable top 70, top 80 sort of a player. Whether he ever gets that or not remains to be seen. As a restricted free agent, I don't think anyone's paying up for him to become a starting center. I think what we got from him this season is almost best case scenario. Maybe he has a top 150 season. I liked what he did. He took steps forward, Zubac, but whether he can take that next step forward, I'm a little skeptical. Whereas Shamet was excellent as a rookie, 42% three-point shooting, played 23 minutes a game, started for the Clippers in his tenure in LA after coming across from Philadelphia, was really, really good during that time. No one's denying that. But does he have actual fantasy high-level upside outside of a three-point streamer? Is he the Duke Wayne Ellington, or can he be someone like JJ Redick, who turned into a better fantasy player than anticipated? Now, during his time at the Clippers, Shamet didn't crack the top 200. He was able to play minutes. He hit over 2 threes a game. He just did nothing else. And that's the overall concern with him moving forward. Does he have those other parts to his game? Love what he provides on court. Really solid NBA player, starting player already. But the Clippers have got big free agent decisions ahead of them, and that might take some of that playing time away from Shamet. So while it was a positive from him, I wouldn't be looking at him as this massive, huge upside sort of a guy. I think there is some, not necessarily downside, that's the wrong way of framing it, but maybe his upside isn't as high as some people think. But to have a plus 5.2 during his time with the Clippers is a really huge thing for a guy like Shamet on a rookie playing on a playoff team. Let's look at the LA Lakers now, a team that obviously was really disappointing throughout this season. There's the obvious sort of players. I think Lonzo Ball is really a big buy low guy. I still believe that he can have top 30 seasons. He showed it, well, he didn't show that necessarily this season, but still, despite all the ups and downs from Lonzo this year, the multiple injuries, he was still the 102nd ranked player in only 30 minutes a game. Now, he's going to push to 34 minutes a game somewhere, whether that's on the Lakers or another team, that remains to be seen. He improved his shooting, 33% from three, 41% from the field. 42% from the line is obviously an abject disaster. Thankfully, he only got there 1 time per game, but that's horrible. But still, 5.5 assists when you're playing on a team with LeBron James is good. 5 rebounds, playing on a team, again, with LeBron as well, and limited role is good. He hit 1.6 triples per game, 10 points, 1.5 steals. And the thing that did drop with Lonzo this season is his block rate, which had been really good as a rookie. 0.8 blocks down to 0.4. That's what dropped him from he was 58th as a rookie down to 102nd. The 4 minutes fewer, the drop in that block rate, but otherwise his true shooting improved this year, and that assist and rebound rate dropped as well. Some of that is LeBron. If he goes to another team, I think his value really skyrockets. I am not out on Lonzo at all, and while he's fit in the NBA, can be clunky as a star player, he's not a star player. He's not a number one player on a team, but in terms of what he can do fantasy-wise, the ceiling is still sky high for what Lonzo is able to do. So it is going to be quite interesting to see what happens with this Lakers team over the summer. Hopefully, whoever the new coach comes in and plays him 32, 33 minutes instead of this bullshit, let's give Rondo minutes over him. Obviously, the injuries didn't help Lonzo during that time, but there's still some, I guess, criticism that should be laid at Luke Walton's feet for the way that he did utilize Lonzo this season. I thought it was relatively poor, some of the way that he was played throughout this season by Walton. But if we're talking dynasty stash type of guys, there's Ingram, there's Kuzma. We know about those guys. To me, Kuzma's a massive sell-high guy. I see his ceiling is really limited. There's Josh the Hitman Hart. Most people are aware of him. I think he does have a couple of top 100 seasons in the arsenal. But if you're going to go real deep, I think you guys know who I'm going to talk about. It's Isaac Bonga, who had a few moments in his NBA career this year. The shooting wasn't one of them. He was 15% in his 22 games. Still, his ability to get assists, 0.7 assists in under 6 minutes is impressive. 0.4 steals, 0.2 blocks. These are all obviously very, very limited sample size things for Isaac Bonga. But he is a guy, massive plus minus as well, plus 4.4 this season. That's impressive, and I thought he did some things in the G League which give people a little bit of scope. 12 points, 6 boards, 2.5 assists, 1.2 steals, 1.1 blocks, 34% from 3, 81% from the line. I look at him as a Bruno Caboclo sort of a player. We saw Bruno take that step forward with Memphis this year, although I believe Bonga has a higher playmaking upside. He's a 6'9" forward who can handle the ball. Steals, blocks, assists, rebounds, and if you can hit the threes, get to the line a little bit, there is a potential good player in that. Now, whether that appears on this Lakers team with Ingram, Kuzma, LeBron, all these sort of guys ahead of him, it's probably unlikely, but this roster is going to undergo significant upheaval, and I think that Bonga is a guy that it's probably going to take 3 years, if it happens at all. It's a low probability of happening, in my opinion. We're a long way from that being the guarantee or the likelihood with Bonga. But if I'm looking at players on this squad, you got Reggie Bullock. I think he is who he is. I think big sexy Alex Caruso put some big numbers. I know he put some good numbers up, and he can be a backup point guard. I think that his scope and time frame and ceiling is all really limited with him. And then you guys like Johnny Williams, who I think did okay. Flaming Mo Wagner. And Wagner's obviously the guy with the higher pedigree than what Bonga can provide, but I just don't see him ever developing into a high-level guy. Lack of defense is a real problem. Think Larry Markkinen, but significantly worse in those defensive numbers. He struggled with his shooting this season. He had a few moments, but he had opportunities at the end of the season. Didn't really show off in that opportunity that he got. So I do think that Bonga is that guy. Again, you're taking a massive flyer on this guy because we're not looking at this huge guaranteed upside, but a defensive wing who can handle the ball, who showed a semblance of a shot. That's something you should be in those deep dynasty leagues, at least having some sort of investment in or marginal thought process. Like, oh, maybe this guy can do it. These are the sort of moves that if it does pay off in 2 years' time, when you've got that stash ability, maybe he can be that guy that can help you out. So he is that name to watch, although there is some skepticism there. But of course, if you can acquire Lonzo at a cheaper rate, he's the guy that you try and do it for. Let's look at the Phoenix Suns. We know DeAndre Ayton there, the 41st ranked player this season as a rookie. Fantastic. Does he ever become a top 10 guy? I really, really have my doubts about that. Can he have multiple top 30 seasons? 100% yes. 16 and 10, a steal, a block, 59 and 75. Great basis there. No assists, the low block numbers, didn't take any threes. Now, this will come. It should have come already. That was really poor that he didn't take any threes this season at all. He can hit them, and he should be trying to do that. But I think in 2-3 years' time, that'll become more regular for Ayton. It's the lack of blocks, and it's the problem. Again, I'll continue to say this with Ayton, is that when this team becomes good, Phoenix Suns fans, not if, when. Actually, maybe let's go with if. If this team becomes good, is he Enes Kanter? Is he topped at 26 minutes? Because now, it doesn't matter. Hey, he's getting cooked defensively, we're just going to play him. It doesn't matter. But when things become more important, when we're talking about a team with higher goals and things to achieve, is that defensive issue with Ayton going to be a problem? Now, he can obviously improve in that area, but will he improve enough to be able to maintain 34 minutes a night, despite how good offensively he is? And I use the Kanter comparison because Kanter is elite offensively, absolutely elite. Elite offensive rebounder, elite offensive center, below average center defensively. And if that's where Ayton goes, does he come from 33 minutes a night down to 26, 27? And that's what limits him overall. But if those block numbers start coming, if he starts hitting threes, then yeah, there is something there with him, obviously. But the guy I do want to talk about, that people still may be a little bit skeptical about, is Mikal Bridges here. He had, I thought, a really successful rookie season. Mikal Bridges led this team in overall minutes, which I think some people might be surprised at. Played all 82 games for the Suns. Obviously, another impressive thing from him. 30 minutes a game. Now, only 8 points. So when you start looking at overall stats, you go 8 points. This is bullshit. What is this? But that's not where his value lies. It's 1.3 threes. It's 3 rebounds. It's 2 assists. It's 1.5 steals. The half a block, that's disappointing. I think that will improve because he was a better shot blocker in college. 81% from the line on 1.4 attempts. If he can start improving that, and this is all coming on under 12% usage. So there's a lot that can improve from Mikal Bridges here if that value jumps up. Now, really strong PIPM. I think almost the best on this team behind Richaun Holmes. Led the team in wins added. A plus 6.4 on off. This is a making of a very good player. And the good thing for us here is that his value can be there fantasy-wise. Now, he's never going to be a 20-point per game scorer. If you had to choose between Mikal Bridges or Miles Bridges, I'd take Mikal every day of the week in fantasy, even though he might be a lower scorer. But what can he top out at? 14 points per game with 2.2 threes? I think he can do that. 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.9 steals, 1 block on 46, 82, and 40% from 3. I think he can do all of those things. And that gives him really high upside. So he's not going to be available in a lot of Dynasty formats, especially the deep ones. He's going to be held onto really closely. But I think that maybe my opinion of his upside is higher than others. So I would be happy to pay more of a premium for him, and I'd be stashing him in every 12-team Dynasty. He's a must-roster guy. If you want to go deeper, the guy I like is DeAnthony Melton, but the value there is a little bit worrisome. Kokoshkov seemed to lose trust in him after his ankle injury. The Suns seem hell-bent on getting a point guard, even though their point guard is Devin Booker, and I don't know what this team continues to think. And then there was that report coming out from Sam Vecini not saying that the Suns were going to draft Ja Morant over Zion Williamson, so don't get that wrong. Sam wasn't saying that. He was saying that they wouldn't be too upset if they ended up getting Ja instead of Zion by falling to the number 2 pick, and I can understand that. And you wouldn't be prioritizing DeAnthony Melton over Ja Morant. But to me, their point guard is Devin Booker. And to me also, DeAnthony Melton fits perfectly alongside what Devin Booker can do. Melton was a +4 this season on off, a plus offensively, a plus defensively, which is massive for a rookie. Really strong defensive PIPM, one of the top 5 or 6 on this team in wins added as well. And he averaged just 5 points per game in 20 minutes, but over 3 assists, 1.5 steals, half a block, and shot only 39%. He has got massive scope to improve, and if the Suns do fail in getting a rookie point guard, or the point guard they get as a free agent, whether they go older, 30, 31 type of guy, do they get Mike Conley in a trade, do they get Kemba Walker, do they explore Drew Holiday, who are all excellent players, Melton's value then falls off further, but 3-4 years down the track, I think we're looking at him as a Patrick Beverley type of player with probably a little bit higher upside. I actually believe in Melton quite significantly. There's guys like Josh Jackson, who I could not be more out on Josh Jackson as an NBA player or as a fantasy player. He just is not good at this point, and and he's only 2 years in, so I don't like writing guys off until they're 3 years in. He's real close. He's just balancing on that tip.
Giggity.
And he's not quite there. The other guy, Ali Okobo, who I thought was a really good pick when they made it, I thought disappointed a little bit this season as a rookie, but he's still got some significant upside. Or Dragan Bender, big steps forward, never going to be a good fantasy player. I think we have to all be aware of that. So there is huge options on this team. Yeah, Melton, Bridges, Ayton, obviously, and Okobo as another option there. And I'm not including Josh Jackson in that list because I just don't buy him as a NBA quality starting level player. Let's move on to the last team now, the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox, Budrick Hield, 2 top 50 players already. Bogdan Bogdanovic struggled at the end of the season. I still believe in him, but he's almost 27. Everyone knows Marvin Bagley, the 141st ranked player this year. I worry about his overall upside because of the lack of efficiency and lack of defensive stats, but he's going to be better than that next year. He'll be a comfortable top 100, probably top 50 guy for many, many years to come. So who's the stash type of guy? Is it Caleb Swanigan? Absolutely not. Is it Frank Mason? Probably not there as well. Yogi Ferrell, already 26, serviceable as a backup point guard this season. I thought he did okay. Alec Burks, not a good long-term player. There's very few options actually now on this Kings team for as much as they're young and upcoming, and they are. Fox and Hield they're not who they're going to be because they can improve, but in Dynasty perspective, we know where they are. Bogdanovic is 27. He can improve still. He's there. The pencil Harrison Barnesy. Again, 27, not a good fantasy player, never will become that. The guy that we have to look at here is Harry Giles. Now, I think people get a little bit over the top in their hype for Harry Giles, and I understand he was the number 1 prospect in high school. He was. Absolutely he was. Also suffered multiple knee injuries since then, and he was bad to start this season. Now, he came on at the end of the season. There's no denying that. But still, in 14 minutes a game this year, he was a 301st ranked player in fantasy. 7-4, half a steal, half a block. And they're not terrible numbers, 50% and 64 from the field and from the line. He didn't flash really any three-point shooting ability, but what he did flash was playmaking. The ability to generate some assists, which is something that we didn't necessarily think we'd be seeing from him, especially at this stage. He took some steps forward. Over the last 2 months when his role increased, he got to 10-5, but still the defensive numbers, 1 block per 36 is pretty poor. The 1.4 steals is impressive there as well. The 3.7 assists per 36, 9.7 rebounds with 18 points. Like, there is something there with Giles. I'm not totally sold on him being this top 50, top 40 type prospect. I think stashing him will be hard because people tend to have a higher opinion on Giles than what I do. I can see him and Bagley being a front court, although Bagley should be the center on any team he plays now. But these are the 2 guys that they do want to play, Bagley and Giles. Now, how Luke Walton wants to run this, we'll see. Dave Yeager's not there anymore to put Nemanja Bjelica into that lineup. How Walton runs that is going to be curious. I think Giles has a real chance at a breakout possibility next season, but I'm not holding my breath. He had that thigh bruise to end the season, nothing significant there, which is important to note. It wasn't a long-term injury sort of a problem, but it is important to note that it isn't a serious problem that is going to limit him as we move long-term. That is obviously really an important thing there. Giles, he flashes some of this all-round game, the assists, some of the scoring, the rebounding. There are things there with him, no doubt about that. But will the defensive numbers come in? Will he be able to stay on the court or get enough playing time as we move forward to really take advantage of this ability that he's got? So if he's available really in any Dynasty League, I would probably grab him. I don't think Willie Cauley-Stein is around on this team next season. I don't think Bjelica is playing anywhere near the same level of role that he did have throughout the course of the year. I think we're going to see a lot more Bagley-Giles front courts for this Kings team, and that's going to give him some level of value with some extra minutes coming. So he is an interesting guy in that respect. I'm not massively high on Gilesy. I think Bagley's going to be a significantly better player and better fantasy guy, but Giles can have a couple of top 100 seasons is probably how I see him topping out, with a few areas of his game that do need some significant work. And defensively, he did struggle a little bit this season, but that is a common thing for rookie big men playing in that second unit alongside other guys who maybe aren't great defenders like Marvin Bagley. So there is a big step forward coming for Giles next season. Whether he can get to the elite level that some people think, I'm doubtful on that, but there is value there in Harry Giles. That'll wrap it up for today's podcast, previewing the Dynasty stashes across the Pacific Division. Don't forget to subscribe to Locked On Fantasy Basketball on the Himalaya podcast app. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and on Spotify. Leave a 5-star review. That would be an excellent way of supporting this show. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. JaVale McGee.